The knock on my cabin door came at exactly 7:30 a.m., sharp and authoritative like someone was serving a warrant. I wasn't expecting visitors. Hell, I'd bought this remote mountain property specifically to avoid people like whoever was pounding on my door at dawn. Through the peephole, I saw a woman in her 50s wearing a bright yellow safety vest, hard hat, and the kind of self-righteous expression that screamed trouble. She was holding a clipboard thick enough to choke a horse and had a measuring tape clipped to her belt like she was conducting a building inspection. "Mr. Chin," she called out in a voice that could wake the dead. "This is Patricia Hawkins, chairwoman of the Pine Valley Homeowners Association. I need to speak with you immediately about multiple violations." I opened the door, coffee mug in hand, trying to process what I was hearing. "I'm sorry, what association?" Patricia consulted her clipboard with the intensity of a prosecutor reviewing evidence. "The Pine Valley Homeowners Association, established 2019, covering all residential structures within the Pine Valley development boundaries. Your property is in clear violation of at least 14 different regulations. Ma'am, I think there's been some mistake." "No mistake," Patricia interrupted, pulling out a laminated map that looked like it had been professionally surveyed. "Your cabin is located at coordinates 40.2731 degrees north, 106.8227 degrees west, which places it squarely within our jurisdiction. I've been monitoring this property for 6 months, and the violations are extensive." I looked at her map. It showed the entire valley divided into neat little parcels with lot numbers, street names, and something called Pine Valley Estates Phase 1. My cabin was marked as Lot 47 non-compliant structure. The problem was I'd owned this land for 15 years. I'd bought 2,000 acres of pristine Colorado wilderness back when I made my first tech fortune, specifically to have a place where HOAs didn't exist. "Ma'am, what exactly do you think I'm violating?" Patricia flipped through her clipboard like she was reading charges at a trial. "Violation 1, unpermitted structure. Your cabin was built without HOA approval. Violation 2, improper setback from the property line. Violation 3, non-conforming exterior materials. We require stone or brick facades, not that rustic wood nonsense." She was just getting started. Violation 4, unauthorized solar panels. All energy installations must be approved by the Architectural Review Committee. Violation 5, improper landscaping. We have strict native plant requirements. Violation 6, no mailbox conforming to HOA standards. I took a sip of my coffee trying to stay calm. "Patricia, I think you're confused about something fundamental here. The only thing I'm confused about is why you think you can ignore our community standards. Violation 7, illegal fire pit. All outdoor burning requires permits. Violation 8, improper vehicle storage. That ATV can't be parked in view of the road." Patricia pulled out her phone and started showing me photos she'd obviously taken while trespassing on my property. Pictures of my cabin from multiple angles, my solar panels, my vegetable garden, even my compost bin. Violation 9, unauthorized composting facility. All waste management must go through approved services. Violation 10, illegal water well. All water sources must be connected to municipal systems. "Patricia, stop." I held up my hand. "Before you continue, can you show me the documents that give your HOA authority over this property?" "Gladly." Patricia produced a thick folder from her oversized purse. "Here's the original HOA charter, filed with Boulder County in 2019. Here's the covenant agreement that covers all properties in Pine Valley. And here's the boundary survey showing your lot clearly within our jurisdiction." I flipped through the documents. They looked official with county stamps and legal language. The boundary map showed my cabin sitting right in the middle of what they called the Pine Valley Estates development. "Patricia, who sold you this information?" "What do you mean sold? This is all public record. I spent 3 months researching property boundaries and legal jurisdictions to make sure our HOA charter was bulletproof." "And who told you this land was available for development?" "Available? Mr. Chin, this land was developed. Pine Valley Estates has been selling lots here for 4 years. We have 47 families who've purchased property in this development." That's when I realized what was happening. Someone had been running a massive land fraud scheme, selling lots in my valley to unsuspecting buyers. And Patricia wasn't the villain here. She was a victim who'd been turned into an enforcer for a scam. "Patricia, can I ask how much you paid for your lot?" "That's private financial information. I'm asking because I think you've been scammed." "How much?" Patricia's confidence wavered slightly. $60,000 for a premium lot with mountain views. Plus HOA fees and development assessments. And where exactly is your lot? Patricia pulled out her phone and showed me a photo of a cleared area about half a mile down the valley. Someone had actually cleared trees and put in a foundation pad. There was even a sign, Future Home of Patricia and Harold Hawkins, Pine Valley Estates, Lot 23. Patricia, I need to tell you something that's going to be very difficult to hear. If this is about the violations, Mr. Chin, I'm not interested in excuses. You have 30 days to bring your property into compliance or face legal action. Patricia, I own this entire valley. All 2,000 acres. I've owned it for 15 years. Patricia laughed. Actually laughed. Mr. Chin, that's ridiculous. Pine Valley Estates is a legally established development with proper county approval and... Do you want to see the deed? That stopped her mid-sentence. What deed? I went inside and grabbed the folder I kept with all my property documents. The original purchase agreement, the deed, the survey maps, the tax records, 15 years of documentation proving I owned every acre of this valley. Patricia studied the documents with growing alarm. This says you bought this property in 2008. That's right. But Pine Valley Estates started selling lots in 2019. That's the problem. Patricia sat down heavily on my porch steps, her clipboard falling to the ground. Are you telling me that Harold and I bought a lot from someone who didn't own it? I'm afraid so. And apparently so did 46 other families. Patricia's face went through several emotions, confusion, realization, and then pure rage. Those bastards. Those absolute bastards. We put our life savings into that lot. Patricia, I need to know everything about Pine Valley Estates. Who sold you the land? What company? What paperwork did they give you? Mountain Vista Development Corporation. They had a sales office in Boulder, professional brochures, everything. They even had a model home. Patricia pulled out her phone and showed me photos of what looked like a legitimate development company presentation. Did they give you actual deeds? Yes. Warranty deeds, filed with the county, everything looked legal. Patricia was frantically going through her purse. Harold insisted we have a lawyer review everything before we signed. And the lawyer said it was legitimate? He said all the paperwork looked correct. The deeds were properly filed, the development had the right permits, everything checked out. This was bigger than I'd thought. Someone had created an entire fake development, complete with forged county documents and fraudulent deeds. They'd convinced dozens of families to buy land that didn't belong to them, then created an HOA to manage the community. Patricia, have you actually tried to build on your lot? We were planning to start construction next spring. We've been saving up for the house while living in our RV on weekends. Patricia's voice was getting smaller as she realized the implications. Oh God. Harold's going to have a heart attack. Where are the other families? Have any of them started building? 3 families have broken ground. The Johnsons actually moved into their foundation basement while they finished construction. The Martinezes have been living in a trailer on their lot for 8 months. Patricia, how many people know about this HOA enforcement you've been doing? Everyone. It's been my job as chairwoman to ensure compliance with community standards. I've been documenting violations for 6 months, preparing for our legal action against non-compliant property owners. Legal action? We hired a lawyer. We're planning to file suit against property owners who refuse to follow HOA regulations. You were going to be our first case. This was getting worse by the minute. Not only had 47 families been defrauded out of their life savings, but they'd also hired a lawyer to sue me for building on my own land. Patricia, I need you to call an emergency HOA meeting. Tonight. Get everyone together, all 47 families. They need to hear this. What are you going to tell them? The truth. That they've been victims of the largest land fraud scheme in Colorado history. And that I'm going to help them get their money back. Patricia looked at me with a mixture of hope and skepticism. Why would you help us? We've been harassing you for months. Because you didn't know. You thought you were protecting your investment and your community. I can't fault you for that. That evening, the Pine Valley Estates Community Center, which turned out to be a rented pavilion at the local state park, was packed with angry, confused families. Patricia had called the meeting for 7 p.m., telling everyone that there were significant developments regarding property boundaries and legal jurisdiction. I walked in carrying a banker's box full of documents and the room went quiet. These people knew me as the guy who'd been ignoring their HOA demands for months. Good evening, everyone. My name is David Chin and I own the land you think you bought. The room erupted immediately. 47 voices shouting questions, accusations, and demands for explanations. Patricia stood up and used an air horn to get everyone's attention. Quiet. Let him explain. I waited for the room to settle, then pulled out a large map of the valley. This is the original survey of my property, purchased in 2008. It covers 2,000 acres, including every lot that Mountain Vista Development Corporation sold to you. A man in the front row, Harold, I assumed, stood up. That's impossible. We have deeds. Legal deeds filed with the county. I know you do. And I know they look legitimate. Because whoever ran this scam was very, very good at forging documents. I spent the next hour walking through the evidence. My original purchase, the property surveys, the tax records showing I'd been paying taxes on the entire valley for 15 years. Then I showed them what I'd discovered that afternoon after Patricia left. Mountain Vista Development Corporation was registered as a business in 2019. The address on file is a UPS store in Denver. The phone number is disconnected. The website is gone. The sales office in Boulder was a short-term rental that they used for 6 months. The room was dead silent as the implications sank in. But our lawyer said everything was legal. A woman in the back called out. Your lawyer reviewed documents that were expertly forged. The county filing stamps, the official seals, even the paper looked authentic. But none of them were real. A younger man stood up. So what does this mean for us? We've put everything into this land. It means you've been victims of fraud. But it also means we're going to fight back. Patricia stood up. David, Mr. Chin, what are you proposing? I'm proposing we work together to find the people who did this and get your money back. I've already hired a forensic accounting firm and a private investigation team. We're going to track down every penny these criminals stole. And in the meantime? Harold asked. We've been living on that land for months. Some families have started building. In the meantime, you can stay. Anyone who's already living on the land can continue living there while we sort this out. Anyone who's started construction can finish their homes. The room buzzed with confused conversations. A woman raised her hand. Why would you let us stay? It's your land. Because you're victims, not trespassers. You acted in good faith based on documents you believed were legitimate. I'm not going to punish you for being defrauded. But what about long term? Even if we get our money back, we still won't own the land, someone called out. That's something we can discuss once we catch the criminals and recover your money. But I'm not planning to kick 47 families out of their homes. Harold stood up again. Mr. Chin, we owe you an apology. Patricia and the HOA have been treating you like a criminal for months. Harold, Patricia was protecting what she thought was her community. I can't fault her for that. She was thorough, professional, and completely dedicated to what she believed was right. Patricia looked embarrassed. I measured your setbacks 6 times. I documented every single violation in detail. I even hired a surveyor to verify the property boundaries. And that attention to detail is exactly what we need to catch the people who did this to you. Patricia, would you be willing to help with the investigation? What kind of help? You've been documenting everything for months. You have photos, measurements, records of every conversation with other property owners. You know more about this fake development than anyone. Patricia's expression changed from embarrassment to determination. Those bastards stole our life savings. Of course I'll help. Over the next 3 months, Patricia became the unofficial coordinator of what we started calling Operation Valley Justice. Her obsessive attention to detail and natural investigative instincts made her perfect for tracking down leads. She organized the 47 families into research teams, each focusing on different aspects of the fraud. Some investigated the fake Mountain Vista Development Corporation. Others tracked down the lawyers and real estate agents who'd helped sell the fraudulent lots. Patricia herself focused on the paper trail. David, look at this, Patricia said during one of our weekly meetings. She'd spread dozens of documents across my kitchen table. The signature on every single deed is identical. Not similar, identical. They used a signature stamp. That's good evidence of fraud. It gets better. The notary stamps are all from the same person. A notary in Denver who reported his stamp stolen in 2018. Patricia had also discovered that the surveyor who'd done the official boundary markers was completely fictional. The surveying license number belonged to a retired surveyor who'd moved to Florida. How did you figure that out? I called every licensed surveyor in Colorado until I found the right license number. Turns out the real surveyor never worked on any development in Pine Valley. The investigation led us to a network of criminals who'd been running similar scams across the western United States. They'd sold millions of dollars worth of land they didn't own, using increasingly sophisticated forgeries and false documentation. The FBI eventually arrested 5 people in connection with the Pine Valley fraud, including the mastermind who'd been running similar schemes in Utah, Nevada, and Wyoming. But the best part of the whole story came 8 months later. Patricia had become so good at investigating real estate fraud that the FBI offered her a job as a consultant. She turned them down. Why? I asked. Because I have a better offer, she said with a grin. Harold and I want to buy our lot. For real this time. Patricia, you don't need to buy anything. You can stay as long as you want. No, we want to do this right. Legal deed, proper survey, fair market price. The whole 9 yards. That's when I realized what I wanted to do with the valley. 6 months later, we held the first official Pine Valley community meeting. Not a fake HOA meeting, but a real community gathering for people who actually owned their land. I'd sold 47 lots to the families who'd been defrauded at cost. No profit, just enough to cover the legal fees and surveys. Everyone who'd lost money in the original scam got to buy the land they thought they'd already purchased. Patricia was elected as the first president of the Pine Valley Community Association. Not an HOA, but a voluntary organization focused on maintaining trails, organizing community events, and helping neighbors. You know what's funny? Patricia said during her acceptance speech. I spent months trying to force David to follow HOA rules. Now I'm trying to convince him to let us build him a proper community mailbox. I like my current mailbox just fine, I called out. David, it's a cardboard box duct taped to a fence post. That's not a mailbox, that's a fire hazard. The community voted unanimously to build me a proper mailbox, despite my protests. A year later, Pine Valley had become the kind of community that HOA advocates claim they're trying to create. Neighbors helping neighbors, beautiful homes that reflected individual taste, and a genuine sense of shared responsibility for the common areas. Patricia had found her calling as a community organizer, but she'd learned to channel her intensity in positive directions. Instead of measuring setbacks and documenting violations, she organized volunteer trail cleanups and coordinated group purchases of road maintenance equipment. You know, I told her during our annual community barbecue, you would have made an excellent HOA president in a legitimate development. David, I was an excellent HOA president. I just didn't know I was president of a fake HOA. True. But now you're president of something better. What's that? A real community. Patricia looked around at families playing in the creek, neighbors sharing tools and recipes, and kids riding bikes on the dirt roads we decided not to pave. You're right. This is better than any HOA. The best part of the whole story was watching Patricia transform from an enforcer of arbitrary rules into a builder of genuine community connections. She still kept detailed records and measured things obsessively, but now she used those skills to organize volunteer projects and coordinate resources. And occasionally, when new people moved to the area and started asking about HOA rules and property restrictions, Patricia would smile and tell them, "We don't have rules here. We have neighbors." The criminals who defrauded the Pine Valley families were eventually sentenced to federal prison, and most of the stolen money was recovered through asset forfeiture. The FBI used Patricia's investigation work as a model for training other agents in real estate fraud detection. But the real victory wasn't the criminal convictions or the recovered money. It was watching 47 families who'd been victims of a cruel scam turn into a thriving community built on mutual respect and genuine cooperation. And it all started with an angry woman in a safety vest, measuring my cabin's setbacks and documenting violations of an HOA that didn't really exist. Sometimes the most annoying neighbors turn out to be exactly the people you need. 3 years later, Patricia knocked on my cabin door again. But this time, instead of a clipboard full of violations, she was carrying a plate of homemade cookies and a hand-carved wooden sign. "What's this?" I asked. "Community project. We all pitched in to make you a proper house number sign. Harold did the woodwork, the Martinez kids did the painting, and I did the measuring to make sure it was perfectly level." I looked at the sign. It was beautiful, carved pine with my house number painted in forest green, mounted on a stone base that matched my cabin perfectly. "Patricia, this is incredible. But you know I never asked for a house number sign." "David, some things are too important to ask permission for. Besides, how else is the pizza delivery guy going to find your cabin?" I installed the sign that afternoon with help from half the neighborhood. It was the first time in my life I'd been happy to comply with a community standard. And as I watched Patricia use a level to make sure the sign was perfectly straight, I realized that some people are born to be community leaders. Patricia just needed to find the right community to lead. Turns out, the best HOA president is one who doesn't actually run an HOA.